All right, the end of the day. It's been a long day, to say the least. It's been a long year. I am going to sit here before I head home and do this video. Grab a few things here. I'm going to do, instead of reading all the notes from the day, because the notes are many, I'm going to start by doing something that Ryan Bundy was not permitted to do in the courtroom, and that is read from the United States Constitution. So the first thing that I'm going to read is the First Amendment. And the First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, I remember when all of this started, and I was hearing, coming across my Facebook feed, this talk about a redress of grievance that had been ignored. And I remember wondering, what in the world is a redress of grievance? I had never heard of that. And since then, I've learned that the redress of grievance is in the Constitution, and it is protected, and it is the people's right when they're not being heard and they've exhausted all other options to approach their government, their elected officials, with a redress of grievance, laying out what their grievances are, and those grievances are supposed to be acknowledged and at least discussed. Now, we know in Ammon Bundy's situation, the other night I said that in his redress of grievance, he had provided signatures, and I had said I thought it was around 8,000 signatures, and I've since learned that it was over 100,000 signatures that Ammon Bundy collected when he put together the redress of grievance regarding the Hammonds. Over 100,000 signatures. Any of you who have been a part of any petitions that have been filed, you can understand how difficult it is to get over 100,000 signatures for a couple ranchers who have been sent off to federal prison. So I am, even more so than I was before, I am respecting this whole process that Ammon Bundy went through to try to bring some awareness to what the Hammonds had gone through. So by reading the First Amendment, I read to you something in the United States Constitution that says we have the right to petition our government for a redress of grievance. Now I'm going to quote the prosecution. Gabriel did the closing arguments today. I might not even be able to find them because my book is so full and I'm not on it. Gabriel said, quote, "Yes, Ammon Bundy supplied a redress of grievance. However, a redress of grievance is not even a legal document." A redress of grievance is not even a legal document. That's what the prosecution said at the end of the day today to these jurors. So I just read from the United States Constitution, the very Constitution that I hear the judge talking about all the time when she says, we're going to push this trial through even though they want it to be a little bit later because it is their constitutionally protected right to have a speedy trial. See, what gets me about what I've experienced this year, and for any of those of you who are watching this with me, that have gone to church with me for nearly 20 years, you know how difficult it is for me to embrace hypocrisy. I'm not saying I'm perfect and that I'm not a hypocrite, because I believe we all are hypocrites. And that's a part of our sin nature, our fleshly desires, is to be, anyway, we're all hypocrites. It's very difficult for me in church to read the scriptures and to see the hypocrisy, or to see people elevating one sin over another and thinking that, well, I cheated on my wife, that's not that bad, but this person's a gay, they must be going to hell. I have a really, really, really big problem with that. And any of you who are following me from my church, you know where I stand on those things. I have never been shy with them. My pastors know where I stand, and the elders of the church know where I stand on issues that are very important to me, especially along the lines of hypocrisy. It's a really big deal. So this year I have learned that our government doesn't actually follow the United States Constitution, not even a little bit. They won't even allow it to be read in the courtroom. The United States Constitution cannot be read in the courtroom. Ammon Bundy tried multiple times. Not only could he not read the Constitution, but when he was giving his testimony, he could not read from his own scriptures of what was feeding into his state of mind when he made the decision to occupy and do a sit-in at the refuge. He couldn't even read from the Bible. He couldn't even read from the Bible, nor could he read from the United States Constitution. I have a really big problem with this. And when I left the courtroom today, for those of you just signing in, I'm just doing a recap of how I feel about the day, and I'm not actually reading through all the notes. But when the prosecution, Gabriel, said in his closing arguments that a redress of grievance is not a legal document, I felt as though the church had said that the Holy Bible is not the Word of God. If the redress of grievance is not a legal document, then the United States Constitution has no place in this country. It is an old document that has been forgotten. The American flag needs to be folded up and put in a box because it represents a country that is not our own. It is disrespectful to our founding fathers to wave a flag right side up because we are a nation in distress. We are a nation in distress, and if you don't believe me, go sit in on a federal case. Go sit in on a federal case where the founding fathers' words could not be read from the courtroom, but the American flag that they fought and died for flies outside of the courtroom. Tell me that's not a disrespect to our founding fathers. The American flag at this time has no business flying right side up. The other thing that I want to read from the United States Constitution, since Judge Anna Brown refused, even without objections, to let Ryan Bundy or Ammon Bundy, this entire case, read from it, nor could they enter it into evidence, even though it went to their very state of mind for occupying the refuge, and it could not be entered into evidence. Ryan Bundy this morning tried to hand each juror a United States Constitution and was denied. Could not even equip the jurors with the Constitution. Now you tell me how our founding fathers would feel about that. You tell me how they would feel about that. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. That was Thomas Jefferson. I sat in that courtroom today, and multiple times I looked across and I saw Ammon sitting up front in his jail clothes, denied bail, spent how much time, him and Ryan in solitary confinement, David in solitary confinement, cruel and unusual punishment, told right to their faces, you have no rights while you're in here, even though you have not been proven guilty. And I had written something that I don't know if I can even find. And I just kept writing, Ammon Bundy, you did this. It was during Schindler's argument. Schindler's arguments and closing statements were so good, I refused to write them down. They were so moving and they were so impactful. This is a man who says he has never, I think in 20 years, represented an individual who had God in his life, nor has he ever represented an individual who was standing on the foundation of the Constitution for his defense. His closing arguments were so powerful that I was taken out of the courtroom and talked to because they said that I was nodding my head and smiling too much in agreement, and they were concerned it was going to distract the jury. This is not the first time I've been talked to, and no, whatever happened today up on the other floor had nothing to do with me. I heard Skittles or people were eating or doing something, and people had asked if that was me. No, thankfully for a change, that wasn't me. But I was talked to by the same gal who removed Deborah today, or removed Deborah for challenging witness tampering that she witnessed. She pulled me aside today and told me that it was reported to her that I was smiling too much. I was smiling too much. Really? This is a public trial. Public may at any time be inclined to sneeze. They might close their eyes. They might even smile if the emotion comes over them. But is it really a reason to threaten to throw them out of the courtroom? Now, I was in the second row. The jurors could not see me. They were looking ahead at Schindler. I had a whole row of people in front of me. And I was talked to today because I smiled in a federal courthouse and they were concerned it would distract the jury. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Thomas Jefferson. Now, I had moments during the trial today where I thought, I'm done speaking out. Pretty soon I'm going to be Ammon Bundy and they're going to pin me for something, right? They've already labeled me. They're already harassing me every time I turn around. But the only thing that tyranny needs to rule is for good men to stay silent. And I looked across at Ammon Bundy during Schindler's closing arguments. And I started writing down, Ammon Bundy, you did this. You did this. You refused to remain silent when people were being abused. You refused to care more about your own life than your neighbor. You spoke up even when your own life was threatened. You did this. You brought the name of the Hammonds all the way across this country when they were ready to turn themselves in and go to jail quietly. You said, no. No, no more. This isn't right. You did this, Ammon. You put the name of the Hammonds on all across the media from coast to coast of this country this year. You have this jury sitting before us that has been forced to listen to more evidence than the jurors of the Hammond case ever heard. These attorneys that are pleading for your case are not doing so because they've been bought and paid for. They're doing so because they believe in you. You spent 3 days on the witness stand. And at the end of it, it resulted in 15 minutes of cross-examination from the prosecution because there was nothing they could say that would discredit you. And in fact, the more they spoke to you, the more your character and integrity shone through to the jurors. They're better off to have you silent. All that we need for tyranny to rule is good men to remain silent. The prosecution, Ammon, did not cross-examine you longer because they want good men to remain silent. Your family is not like the American family, the selfish, greedy family that says, everything is about me. Who cares what happens to my neighbor? That's not who your family is. That's why your kids have been okay this year and your family has been provided for, because God is watching over you guys. Not because I believe you're some elite and specifically chosen as though you are the only one, but you are one of the chosen people that have been brought forth to stand up and boldly proclaim, not only in the name of God, in the name of Christ, but the name of freedom and the name of liberty. Anybody can choose that. This isn't for the elite. This is for the courageous. This isn't for the elite. Now, if the elite happen to be the courageous, so be it. But that's by each individual person's choice. Nobody's making you remain silent. Nobody's making you remain silent. Our founders also had a few other messages, and they said, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. Benjamin Franklin said that. As a nation becomes more corrupt and vicious, they have more need for masters. Does that not fit the day and age we live in right now? As we become more corrupt, we have more need for masters. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams. See, our government tried to paint a picture today in closing arguments of these occupiers. They lied. It was difficult. A lot of people got up and left the courtroom in overflow. I was in the main courtroom, but a lot of people got up and left the courtroom because they couldn't handle the lies that were being spoken by the government. They pulled out all of the stops. Gabriel brought his game face today. He was agitated. He was frustrated. He was pissed off that he had to sit and listen to all of the closing arguments, speaking of truth and integrity. And he couldn't wait to tear into these individuals. He actually lied, surprisingly enough, a lot in his closing arguments to make these people look very scary. But listen to this. What I gathered from his closing arguments is that one of the main things that made this occupation fit the description of impeding federal officers from doing their jobs through threats, force, and intimidation is the armed guards. He kept going back to the fact that there was somebody at the beginning of the driveway controlling who came and who went, that they had weapons, that if somebody showed up and had a different mission or perhaps wanted to be violent, they would not be permitted in the building. Of course, this didn't happen to my understanding, but I would assume that was the purpose of the guards at the gate. He spoke a lot today about the guards. He went on to say everything that went on within the refuge was only allowed to happen freely because of the guards that were at the gate, which is why this was a conspiracy, that everybody was involved, whether they verbally agreed to or not. The very nature of what each person did contributed to the overall conspiracy. He said federal agents would not be welcome in this facility. He said federal employees would not be welcome, because Ammon said in a video that if he made them welcome or if they came back, they would just put the chains back on the people of Harney County. So as he's speaking about this environment of the American people, this is American citizens, American people who went to a location that had been abusing the people and actually did exactly what our founding fathers told them to do. To all of you trolls and haters out there, you've never read the Constitution of the United States of America. Do you understand why we're one of the greatest nations on earth? Do you understand why there's been freedom and liberty and prosperity? It's because a group of guys got together and said no freaking more. No more tyranny, no more dictatorship, no more rule of a king, no more telling us how many deer we can and can't kill that come across our property. No more. That's why we've been great. All of the things you hate about Ammon Bundy are all of the very reasons that you're free and that you're living in a nation of prosperity. Can you not grasp that? Will you get a Constitution today and just read through it? Just see for yourself. I did it. When this stuff first hit my news feed, I had never read the United States Constitution before. And I went and I picked one up and I started reading through it. And by God, everything those people were doing was absolutely protected in the United States Constitution and actually ordered by our founding fathers. What if you're surprised? What if at the end of the day you realized that every freedom you experience right now is something that Ammon Bundy was fighting to protect? What if not? Because you want to live in a communist country. Does that mean that Ammon Bundy was wrong to fight for what his founding fathers wanted? Or does it mean that you're actually out of the norm because you want something that opposes what our founders set forth? Does it mean that you need to put your American flag away and that you need to pick up the flag of a communist country and a country that's run by a dictator? If you want a dictator, pick up the flag and wave it, but don't wave the American flag, because these founding fathers died so that we wouldn't be under a dictatorship. And I just sat through almost 6 weeks of trial under a dictatorship, under a rule of a king, where people are pulled out of the courtroom for smiling. You want to know how intimidated I am to enter that courtroom? I have to give my ID. I have to take off my shoes. I have to take off my coat. I have to let a stranger rummage through my purse. I have to hand over anything that they conceive to be a threat, even if it's something small. If they perceive it to be a threat, I have to check it in. Then I go upstairs. I do the whole thing all over again on the next floor. Then we get let out for break. I go use the bathroom before I can enter that same courtroom. Even though I haven't left the building, I do the whole thing all over again, and I watch men put their hands in my purse and dig through my things. Men with guns. We come out of the courtroom and Homeland Security is all around us. Tasers, handcuffs, guns. Armed men controlling who comes and who goes. Willing to turn people away if they don't agree with their narrative. Conspiracy? Is it a conspiracy? I say so. I say there is an absolute conspiracy to intimidate the American people every time you enter one of their fortresses. But what can I do about it? What can I do about it? Ammon Bundy did something about it. He peaceably assembled. He occupied a building that was set to be owned by the public. The paychecks that were signed to those federal employees were taken from the accounts of the public. The jacket that was missing from the Fish and Wildlife officer who was so distraught, that was not his jacket. Linda Beck's office, her desk that other people sat at, that was not her desk. That was not her personal home. That was a public building bought and paid for by the American people. And these men and women sit in jail facing charges of keeping federal employees from doing their jobs. Federal servants from doing their jobs. Don't tell me we're a free nation. Don't tell me we're a free country. When if we keep a servant from doing their job because they're being corrupt, we will face federal charges. We are not a free country. Our founding fathers' intent does not rule this nation, and our American flag has no business flying right side up. And if you don't believe me, go visit the jails. Go visit the good men that are sitting in jail right now who love their families, who love their Heavenly Father, who love their neighbor as themselves, who love their country. Go visit them and tell me that we're a free country. If these men are found guilty of doing what our founding fathers told them to do, this Constitution means nothing. This Constitution will be ripped up. My flags will be put away. I felt threatened today. I felt intimidated today because I smiled too much in the courtroom. They will make up any charge to put people in jail that they do not agree with or they do not want speaking. And if I had pushed the issue with her, which I wanted to do, I wanted to say, can I grab a couple of the attorneys? Because I'm feeling really intimidated by you right now. And I've been here a long time this year, right? I'd hate to get thrown out just before the verdict, but can we talk about this? Had I done that, she would have escorted me out of that courtroom and said that I was interfering with the concentration of the jury. And there wouldn't be a damn thing I could do about it, which is why our founding fathers gave us a Second Amendment right. A Second Amendment right that I don't even have when I'm in a federal building. 90% of this hearing, all we've heard about is the guns. They were protesting their government. When you protest your government, you had better bring your Second Amendment rights. You're protesting your government. A powerful government. The most powerful government in history. You think you're going to protest them with words? You protest them with weapons, not to intimidate them, but to keep yourself alive. That's why you protest and you have weapons. That didn't come from me. That came from what I've been learning about our founding fathers' message for this country. None of that came from me. If you want to charge somebody with a conspiracy, charge our founding fathers with conspiracy. Don't charge Ammon. Don't charge me. Don't charge Ryan. Don't charge David Fry, Jeff Banta, Shauna Cox. Charge the founding fathers who gave them a responsibility to protect their country at all cost and to fight for their neighbors at all cost. Charge them as terrorists. And as soon as you do, you show who you are and you're not an American. Judge Anna Brown, how dare you fly that American flag outside your courthouse when you won't even let the founders' words be read? How dare you? How dare you to the officers who have challenged me time and time again for shirts that I've worn in the courthouse, but said nothing to Agent Jones when he walked out after going to Dwayne Schrock and intimidating a witness. How dare you? I know you guys are watching this. I know you watch my page. How dare you call yourself an American? You're a traitor. And our founding fathers would be ashamed of you. They'd be absolutely ashamed of you. Absolutely ashamed. Don't call yourself an American. Not while that flag is flying outside that courthouse. Not as you tell me I have First and Second and Amendment rights. Don't tell me that. Don't even say. You don't even have the right to bring up the Constitution because you don't even know it yourself. You don't even know what my rights are, and that's why you strip them away from me every time I walk into that building. That's why you think Ammon Bundy broke the law, because you don't even know the Constitution that you swore an oath to uphold. Put it away. Put the Constitution away. Put the American flag away. Fly any flag you want, but not the American flag. You're a disgrace to this country. That entire courthouse is a disgrace to this country. This entire case, $100 million allotted for this case to prove that 7 individuals kept fish and wildlife from coming to work each day, even though during the occupation they went to another facility and worked. $100 million was allotted of our money to try men with no criminal records because they challenged their government when their government ignored them. Throw your Constitution away. Throw it away. Don't preach it to me in the courthouse because you don't know it. Don't tell me I have rights because you've stripped them all away. We've come a long ways, you guys. And I pray to God that it's a not guilty verdict. And I pray to God that that $100 million, that there wasn't any of that that went to the jurors. That there wasn't any of that that went to some of the witnesses. But it's pretty hard to believe that that could possibly be the case. All tyranny needs to rule is for good men to do nothing. Ammon Bundy did something. Jeff Banta did something. Ken Medenbach did something. Do something. Speak out. Tell them no. Tell them no more. Tell them to either take down their American flag or to start upholding our founding fathers. Their ways, their requests, their words, their direction, their orders, everything they left for us. Uphold it or get rid of your flag. I have no problem boxing up my flag at the end of this if these men are found guilty. No problem, because it will be a thing of the past. I'm praying that's not the case, and I'm praying that the jurors heard what the rest of us heard and heard the truth. I'm praying that they're not bought and paid for. Pray with me that that's the case. There's a lot of really outstanding people in that courtroom. And again, the more you study these cases, the more you will learn. If they can do it to them, they can do it to me. If they can do it to them, they can do it to you. Speak up for them while you can. Stand up for them. Make some phone calls. Show up. Don't be intimidated when they try backing you in corners. Don't ever be willing to submit to the enemy. Liberty or death, right? That's what Lavoie said, liberty or death. So there's my testimony of the day, how I felt it went. Defense arguments were great, not because they manipulated the jury, but because they spoke truth against the people they're representing. And I think it actually came pretty easy for them to speak because they've gotten to know who these people are. The prosecution lied. The jury gets this first thing in the morning. Please be praying for their hearts. Please be praying that these are Americans, that these are Americans that will stand behind their fellow Americans, that will understand the purpose of government, that will understand the United States Constitution doesn't give me my rights. It reminds the government what rights I have and what rights they can't take. And the only thing that stands in between Ammon Bundy and the federal government right now is this jury. Please pray for them. I'll try tomorrow to do an update and read through the notes if I can get to it. When this is all said and done, for those of you asking, no, I'm not a reporter. I'll likely never do a live stream video again after this is done. Sorry, Twitter trolls, you'll have to pick somebody else to harass. But yes, I've made lifelong friends, and no, I'm not going anywhere. And yes, to those of you who've been asking, I will be showing up in Nevada and showing my support there for these people when they are transferred for their next ridiculous charges of American people standing on the principles of the Constitution and protecting their rights, their life, their liberty, and their property. Those are their rights. The government has tried to take those away, and so I will do anything I can to help and to support them. And I hope that you will too. Get educated, study the Constitution. The more you know, the more power that you have. And until next time, be free.